إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. Next part of knowing Allah Ar-Razzaaq is knowing He's also wise in giving provision. Many people today utter day and night, Allah is wise, the all-wise. And they preach it. But at nighttime they contradict it by complaining to others of Allah and about their poverty. They complain to other than Allah about their poverty, yet they say Allah is wise and Ar-Razzaaq. Allah said, وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. If Allah were to enlarge the provision for some of His slaves, they would rebel on this earth. وَلَكِنْ يُنَزِّلُ بِقَدَرٍ مَا يَشَاءُ. He sends by measures, in quantities. There is many, those who know Ar-Razzaaq and Al-Hakeem. And the Razzaaq and Al-Hakeem that you believe in knows that if He gives you some funds, you'll misappropriate them. And they're not good for you. So that's part of believing in Ar-Razzaaq Al-Hakeem. Your Aqeedah in this is that you accept the status that Allah gave you because you don't know your situation, rich or poor, whether that will, if it changes from one status to another, whether it will result to your change of status from wretched to being happy or happy to being wretched, or the opposite. You don't know how it will change you. You never object to Al-Hakeem. If I get into any one of your personal business and I say, why'd you buy that $20,000 car, not the $10,000 or $5,000 car, or less than that? Why'd you get an iPhone and sign the 2-year contract? You should have stayed with a vintage phone that has only voice and possibly text. Why'd you just give your wife $500 to go to the mall? Your natural reaction is to tell me, who do you think you are to object to my decisions? Who are you, Ahmad Jibrīl, to object to my decisions and judge my wisdom? That's my business. You're right. You're actually right. Who am I to interfere with your wisdom in your internal family business, in your affairs? But again, who are you to judge the divine wisdom of Allah? Al-Hakeem Ar-Razzaaq. أهم يقسمون رحمة ربك نحن قسمنا بينهم معيشتهم في الحياة الدنيا ورفعنا بعضهم فوق بعض درجات ليتخذ بعضهم بعضا سخريا ورحمة ربك خير مما يجمعون. Who do you think you are to portion out the mercy of Allah? That's not your business. Who are you to portion out the mercy of your Lord? Your provision of your Lord. We portion out between the humans, the creation, the livelihood in this world. And we raise, وَرَفَعْنَا بَعْضًا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ دَرَجَاتٍ, we raise some of them above others in ranks. So they may employ others in their work. Some are rich, high class, medium class, low class, middle class and low class. Those who say, why didn't Allah make me rich so I can build masajid? A lot of people say that. And support the oppressed and do. In a sense, some may be disgruntled with the division of Allah. If they just want to do good, that's different. But if they're internally disgruntled with Allah, don't forget the Ar-Razzaaq is the all-wise, the all-knowing. That He knows why He gave you, why He gave it to you. Qarun, and there's many like Qarun, and you know the story of Qarun. You say the people of Qarun asked the same question. Why didn't Allah give us like He gave Qarun? Then when they seen what happened with Qarun, they regretted it. And in the verse, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ عَاهَدَ اللَّهَ لَإِنْ آتَانَا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ لَنَصَّدَّقَنَّ وَلَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Some made a covenant with Allah saying, if He bestowed on us of His bounty, we would give in charity. A lot of people say that. And we'll certainly, لَنَصَّدَّقَنَّ وَلَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. We're going to be among those who are righteous. We're going to give. Let us give us. Why doesn't He give us? So we can give in charity and we can be righteous. What happened after they got it? فَلَمَّا آتَاهُم مِّن فَضْلِهِ بَخِلُوا بِهِ وَتَوَلَّوْا وَهُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ. When Allah gave them His bounty, they became cheap and turned away from Allah. The result is objecting to Allah's command. فَأَعْقَبَهُمْ نِفَاقًا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. He punished them by putting hypocrisy into their hearts until the day that they will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بِمَا أَخْلَفُوا اللَّهَ مَا وَعَدُوهُ وَبِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. Because they breached their covenant and because they were liars. By the way this verse was revealed, you know that it's not something to object about. What Allah gave you a provision. And this, let me say before I forget, this verse was not revealed by Tha'laba, as the popular story is. A Sahabi named Tha'laba, and that got rich and then went. That's a fabricated story. The true proper reason for the revelation was what Ibn Hajar mentioned through Ibn Wahab and Ibn Zayd, that it's a group of munafiqeen. Tha'laba was a man who stood firm in the battle of Badr. Don't be displeased. The point of it is, don't be displeased with what Allah has chosen for you. Seek means no problem. But when you become displeased in your heart at Allah and the destiny Allah chosen for you, low class, middle class, high class, whatever it is, then there becomes a deficiency in our topic today, belief in Ar-Razzaaq. When Allah is Al-Alim Ar-Razzaaq, He gave it to you for a wisdom. When He is Al-Hakeem Ar-Razzaaq, He deprived you for a wisdom. So never object. Part of believing in this tawheed is to be fully content with what Allah has given you a provision. فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَبْوَابَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Allah gives this dunya to whom He likes and dislikes. But the akhirah is only for those who Allah likes. Thinking and judging that Allah gives this dunya to who's more favorable to Him in the akhirah levels is an aspect that Kuffar Quraysh used to have. وَقَالُوا نَحْنُ أَكْثَرُ أَمْوَالًا وَأَوْلَادًا وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. They used to bolster to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Sahaba, we got more than you guys. We got more than you. We have more wealth, we have more children, and we're not going to be punished. Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The reply is, tell them, Muhammad, Allah enlarges His provision to whomever He wills and whoever He wants to restrict. Allah gives His provision in this life for those He likes and dislikes, but only gives success in the high levels in the akhirah for those He loves and likes. Hatim al-Asam was asked once, how did your tawakkul on Allah become so strong? He said, I believe that no one will take my provision, so my heart became content. I knew that death awaits me, so I prepared my baggage for that journey. I know my actions, no one can perform them but me, so I became occupied in them. I'm too busy in my work. Number 4, I knew Allah watches me and sees me, so I became ashamed to let Him see me doing any sins. They said, so where do you eat from? They seen Him so content, so relaxed, so laid back. So where you eat from? He responded, وَلِلَّهِ خَزَائِنُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. To Allah belongs the treasures of the heaven and the earth, but the hypocrites do not comprehend that. Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, said, I depend on Allah for my provision. And I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that my provision will come to me. And then he went on to say, provision will come to me, my rizq will come to me, even if it's coming from the deep, dark ocean, the bottom of the deep, dark ocean. So why should I grieve or be sad over it? Why be depressed about it? Relax. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu said, لو أنكم تتوكلون على الله حق توكله لرزقكم كما يرزق الطير تغدو خماصا وتعود بطانا. The hadith narrated by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you all relied on Allah as you should rely on him. لو أنكم تتوكلون على الله حق توكله لرزقكم. He would have provided you. Just like he provides birds. They wake up hungry in the morning and return with full stomachs at dusk time. تغدو خماصا. تغدو in the hadith means they go early. They go early in the day with empty stomachs. They go meaning they do something. وتعود or تروح in a narration means they return late in the evening. بطانة means with full provision. True tawakkul, what you take from the hadith, true tawakkul is full reliance of the heart on Allah using the means available. He didn't say Allah will provide you like he provides that bird laying in the nest. He says taghdu taruh. That's why I specified the definition of those words. Like a bird that goes and returns. Tawakkul is firm belief in the heart, putting dependency in the heart on Allah using the means available. That's the true meaning of tawakkul in the matter of rizq. Ibn Abi Dunya narrated that people came to Medina one time. And Umar, as usual, anytime he seen foreigners in Medina, outsiders, he'd ask them. And he seen people, he knew they were from Yemen. So he said, who are you? Meaning, give me more about yourself. They said, نحن المتوكلون. We're the one who depend on Allah. He said, you're mutawakkilun. You depend on each other, not on Allah. He said, al-mutawakkilun, the real mutawakkilun, are those who put the seeds in the ground with their reliance on Allah. Your heart, this is all part of believing in Ar-Razzaaq. Your heart hangs with Allah, the creator and the controller of all means you gotta believe part of that don't harm and benefit. They don't provide nor take from you. Your provision, the order for it, comes from the creator Ar-Razzaaq. Sahal ibn Abdullah Tasturi said a golden word about this whole matter. He says, whoever neglects means has neglected the sunnah. And whoever neglects tawakkul, the reliance on Allah, neglects iman. Tawakkul is the state or status of the Prophet. Whoever's on the status of the Prophet can't leave out the sunnah of the Prophet. The Prophet ﷺ was known to take beans. Look at his life. In Hijrah, he depended on Allah all throughout his life, every moment of his life, fully. Yet he used the means available to him. When he went, he took the guide with him to Mecca, to Medina. He hid in the cave. Did he say, Abu Bakr, I'm the best man to walk on the face of the earth, and you are the second best, the best man after the messengers to walk on the earth? So let us just lay open in the open desert with knowing that there's 100 bounty camel on my head and your head, and Allah is going to protect us. That's tawakkul, not tawakkul. He went in a cave. He found a secluded cave, away from them. One he thought that they wouldn't see. And then he said, لا تحزن إن الله معنا. You use the means, but your heart is fully with Allah. Sometimes there's no means to us. But whether there is or there's not, if there is, you use the means. If there's not, you have no choice. But in both case scenarios, your heart is fully attached to Allah. If the Prophet ﷺ was hungry, did he wait for food to drop from the sky, or did he go and prepare and eat and sit and eat? In Badr, 1,000 men versus 300. 300 of the Sahaba versus 1,000. He didn't say, oh my friends, put your weapons down, let's just sit here and make dua. And the closer they come, let your dua shout more and more, louder and louder. The heads are flying off, let it be louder and louder. That's the thinking of some deviant groups today. No, he thought, make dua, but he prepared. He made dua himself until his upper garment fell off, while Abu Bakr felt bad for him for making all that dua. And the Prophet Abu Bakr behind him put in his upper garment on him. He then aligned them. He positioned them in front so the believers will not get any of the water wells, so that all the water would be behind them. He told them, hold fire until they come and you can see the whiteness in their eyes. Then after you see that, then you can proceed. That is the same as rizq. You seek a job, but the heart is fully attached to only Allah. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه. He made the earth subservient to you, so walk in it. No, walk in the path, and eat from his provision. He said walk, famshu, pursue, search, famshu. Look at that. He said famshu. He didn't say it's going to come to you. Seek it, pursue it. Your rizq, pursue it. Do the means. Don't sit and expect it to come to you. That's also additional benefit from famshu. Like the word walk in this verse is delicate. It means, yes, go for your rizq, but don't stress for it. Allah wrote it for you. So don't go after this dunya like a galloping horse in the outskirts. Maryam alayhi salam, when she gave birth to Isa, in her agony, in her birth, in her pain, in the midst of her agony, Allah says, وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ. Shake the trunk of the tree, the date palm tree. If you shake it, it will fall from it fresh, ripe dates for you. Anyone tell me how a man, a strong man, the strongest man out of all of you, can shake a palm tree and bring the dates down? How's a woman in labor going to do that? The lesson really is, depend on Allah, Maryam, but do the little means. Just shake it. Touch that tree and try to shake it, and then the rest is on Allah. Submit the resume. Go to the interview. Put the offer on the business in the house. And at the same time you're doing it, before and after, no, it's coming from the sky. Your mind should be elsewhere. Your mind should be in the sky. If He wants you to get it, no one's going to deprive you from it. And if He doesn't want you to get it, there's no one going to get it for you. The bottom line is that your heart must be fully attached to Allah. Once that heart is attached to a job or the business for rizq, then there's a deficiency in the belief of that Allah is Ar-Razzaaq. No matter how small that percentage is, it's a deficiency right there. Ibrahim ibn Adham was preparing a barbecue. He was cutting up meat to eat to barbecue it. A cat took a slice of that meat and ran off with it. Ibrahim looked and seen that she didn't really eat it. She took it to a distance as he was monitoring it and put it in an open field by a hole in the ground. So he walked close to it. He monitored the situation, watching. Why didn't it come back to eat it? Suddenly, a snake with its eyes popped out, a blind snake, comes out from the hole and takes it and goes right back in. A cat and snake are enemies. They're prey and predator. Ibrahim looked at the sky and said, praise be to Allah, He made enemies provide sustenance and provision for each other. Some in the past used to make the dua, Allahumma ya man yarzuqu an-na'abata fi 'ushshiha. An-na'abata fi 'ushshiha. Na'aba is the chick of a crow. In Arabic, a crow is a ghurab. So the crows are species that are ranked among the most intelligent animals. Their chicks hatch blind, helpless, covered with just skin, and weigh probably a little bit over half an ounce. The crow is black. The chick, when it hatches, is pink. It's believed that when the crow sees the chicks, they're not black. It leaves for a long period of time, or possibly for forage, to get food. The baby crows, depending on their stage, will need to be fed approximately every 30 minutes. The mom is gone in either disappointment or to get the food. And the baby needs food every 30 minutes. This is an-na'aba. Oh Allah, provide me like you provide an-na'aba in her nest. So Ar-Razzaaq sends that lonely chick insects, bugs, grasshoppers, weevils, berries, spiders, whatever it may be, on its beak, attracted to its beak, so it can eat it until the mother either returns with food or from the disappointment to see the feathers are black. That's why they used to say, Allahumma ya man yarzuqul na'abata fi ushiha. Like, oh Allah, provide me like you provide that little baby chick of a crow. Who provided the helpless baby crow insects, provisions, while the mother and father were gone? Who provided the helpless blind snake a piece of flesh right at its hole from its enemy, a cat, preying predator? هل من خالق غير الله يرزقكم من السماء والأرض لا إله إلا هو فأنا تؤفكون. Is there a creator other than Allah who provides for you from the sky and heaven? It is Ar-Razzaaq. It is Ar-Razzaaq. Mankind think in a narrow sense that rizq is materialistic, like we said in the beginning of the class. That's why many cry poverty. Ibn Sammak, a preacher, he was an advisor to Harun al-Rashid. Harun used to always consult with him and keep him by his side to remind him. Harun al-Rashid was the man, the Khalifa, who used to tell the cloud, go rain wherever you want, your wealth is going to return to me. Harun wanted a cold glass of water once, and it must have been that he kept asking for it over and over again. He repeatedly asked for a cold glass of water. It caught the attention of Ibn Sammak next to him, his advisor, so he wanted to give him some consultation. Ibn Sammak said, after he drank it, what would you do, before he drank it, what would you do if no water was available to you and you're forced to trade for this cup of water? You're supposed to give something for it. Harun al-Rashid said, for sure, most certainly, I'd give at least half my kingdom, if not more. After he drank the cup, Ibn Sammak said, what would you give if you weren't able to release the waste of that water from your body unless you traded something for it? Harun al-Rashid said, I would certainly give the other half of my wealth, if I had more and I needed, I would give even more than that. Ibn Sammak cried to the Khalifa. He said, drink, Khalifa, drink. May Allah bless you. Fie upon a kingdom that could easily be traded for a cup of water. Ashrab ya Sayyidi. Ashrab hanna'ak Allah. Uffin limulkin la yishtara. Uffin limulkin la yashtari sharbata ma. I memorized poems from Shaykh Kishk when I was a kid, and I used to hear his lectures, the eloquent speaker, rahmatullah alayh. He used to say, هي القناعة فاحفظها تكن ملكا ولو لم يكن لك إلا راحة البدن. Be content. He actually said it when a Shah of Iran died. Be content. You'll feel like a king even if you don't have but peace of mind. وانظر لمن ملك الدنيا بأجمعها هل راح منها بغير القطن والكفن. Look at those who ruled the globe. Look at those who ruled the globe in their entirety. Did they leave this earth but with ka'in in shrouds? Remember how we defined rizq? Why do you look at it as money in your account alone? Rizq is your aqeedah. Your aqeedah is among the biggest rizq you can have. It is the biggest rizq you can have. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. Belief in the qadr of rizq is aqeedah. Once you establish this firm in your heart, which we're trying to get to, you live a content life. Having a deficiency in the belief in Ar-Razzaaq, our topic today, is dangerous. In Sunan Abu Dawood, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man nazalat bihi faqa." Authentic hadith. Whoever gets faqa is usually a financial hardship. Whoever gets in a financial hardship, faqa. فَأَنزَلَهَا بِالنَّاسِ. He turns to people. He depends on them. Depends on them in his heart. لَمْ تُسَدْ فَاقَتَهُ. His hardship will not be fulfilled. وَمَنْ نَزَلَتْ بِهِ فَاقَ فَأَنزَلَهَا بِاللَّهِ. Okay, whoever gets a financial hardship and turns to Allah for help. فَيُوشِكُ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِرِزْقٍ عَاجِلٍ أَوْ آجِلٍ. فَيُوشِكُ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِرِزْقٍ عَاجِلٍ أَوْ آجِلٍ. Allah will bring him his rizq sooner or later. Focus on this ayah. وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَمْلِكُ لَهُمْ رِزْقًا مِنَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ. Give me your full attention. They worship others besides Allah, who do not and cannot and absolutely cannot have any provision or control over provision from the heaven and the earth. In Arabic, if you were to remove the two words in this ayah, rizq and shay'a, remove rizq, provision, and shay'a, anything, the meaning stays good. So why these two extra words? We said the Quran is delicate. These words are there for a purpose. So what's the meaning? To add affirmation that the only one who can provide rizq is Allah. النكرة في سياق الإثبات تفيد الإطلاق. Rule of usul. Focus. Both these words in the ayah, rizq and shay'a, are indefinite nouns. Ism nakira. Rizq and shay'a, those two words I said that are extra, are indefinite nouns. The rule in usul is the indefinite noun, ism nakira, in the context of a general sentence denoting, affirming, declaring, establishing, indicates absolute, unconstrained, unconditional, unrestricted matter. النكرة في سياق الإثبات تفيد الإطلاق. Pay attention, I'm going to explain it more. These rules are complex as it is, and it only gets harder when you explain them in English. So you gotta give me double the attention you regularly give me. If you have a sentence affirming something, declaring, establishing, then there's a nakira, indefinite noun, that means it's absolute. That indicates it's absolute, unconstrained, unrestricted. Adding a nakira that's otherwise not essential gives it basically exaggerated, absolute, unconstrained, unrestricted meaning. That's the point right there. Meaning, here comes the meaning. Those who they worship other than Allah have absolutely not a tiny bit of control over rizq. Let's take the first indefinite noun to shed more light at what I'm trying to talk about. He added to their nothingness, they already had nothing, he added to their nothingness shay'a, the word any. Okay, ya Allah, you told us they don't have anything, no control over provision. So why did you add shay'a? They have nothing. So why did you add anything to nothing? If I say to any of you, what's your paycheck this week? Your paycheck after everything clear is $201.05. Would any of you tell me, if I say, what's your paycheck? You're going to say $201.05. You're going to say $200. We're not sitting here doing your income tax, so you're going to say $200. You round it off because 105 is so little, so minute, so insignificant that you don't even count it. A second example to get this rule that I'm talking about, because you understand them more with examples. If I say to you, what time is it now? 1:59. Okay. Does anyone tell me 1:59? Everyone's going to round it off and say it's 2 o'clock. A third example. If someone has no wealth, may have a little bit of wealth. What do you tell me if I ask you about his financial situation? He has nothing. The common terminology. He has nothing. There is something, but it's so little, so minute, so tiny, so insignificant that you consider it nothing. It's rounded off. It's a fraction that's rounded off. That is why the indefinite noun shay'a was added. Allah wants you to have the pure tawheed in Ar-Razzaaq, and He wanted to eliminate any tiny doubt that anyone other than Allah has any provision. There's not even the super slight change, there's not even the super slight chance that one may have any tiny significant control or rule over rizq other than Allah. Shay'a, anything. That's why the indefinite noun was added. So the verse is saying they worship those who have absolutely no control over rizq. Absolutely. Not even those tiny fractions that may be considered by some. Those the mushrikeen worship, they don't have any tiny rounded off fraction of control or rule over rizq. The conclusion, why so much emphasis? Why? This is to erase the possibility that we may have any thought or doubt that anyone has any little crumb or power in control over rizq to affirm, to fulfill your heart with full and pure tawheed to Ar-Razzaaq. Two nakira, come to affirm this. Two, not one. Shay'an was one. Shay'an one. The same thing we mentioned about Shay'a, rizqa two. They were added to eliminate the thought that there may be that tiny fraction that people neglect, that round off, like the 105, the 1 minute, one having a little bit of provision, and then you say he has nothing. To eliminate even that possible tiny thing, that there isn't even a rounded off figure in the matter. They have absolutely no control over rizq. Okay. We got the general wording of the verse that those mushrikeen worship those who have no rule or control over rizq. That's the general wording. It already tells it all. To top it off, we have two nakira, shay'an and rizqa, to add emphasis to show not a crumb of power or a rounded off fraction of power do they have over rizq. We're not done there. Allah wants pure tawheed. The third thing in the matter, the end of it. وَلَا يَسْتَطِعُونَ. The verse at the end says, and they cannot. They're unable to. Sometimes you may have power to do something, but the opportunity is not there. Allah wanted to eliminate that thought too. Belief in Ar-Razzaaq is no joke. It's firm. It's deep. وَلَا يَسْتَطِعُونَ. وَلَا يَسْتَطِعُونَ. They don't have the power and they don't have the ability to rule over rizq. No power and no ability. Once you affirm absolute tawheed in Ar-Razzaaq, you live at peace and at ease. You live at peace and at ease. You live at peace and at ease knowing it's among the biggest sources for today's anxiety disorders and depression and stress and traumatic stress. And it's when you know it's from Allah, you live at ease and peace, you live in the hands of Allah, you live a stress-free life. Keep your heart with Allah. If you're rejected from a university or a job, don't even feel down or sad. Take it with a smile and walk away. Your interview goes back, it wasn't meant by Allah because it's in the sky. The creation, that creation that you see in a suit and a tie before you, conducting the interview, he couldn't raise his finger nor move his lips or utter a word except what Allah wanted him to do. You're going to the interview because Allah wants you to go with the means, to seek the means. But before, during, and after, your heart must be in complete attachment with Allah. Your heart got to be in another world. Allahu yahulu bayna al-mar'i wa qalbi. Allah comes between that person you think is a boss interviewing you. Allah comes between him and his heart. Allah can make him utter that which he wants. Yahulu bayna al-mar'i wa qalbi. Affan ibn Muslim as-Saffar was Shaykh for Bukhari. In the fitna of Khalq al-Quran, Affan was a alim. And they were scanning, they started by the ulama, scanning the ulama, interrogating them, pertaining to the matter of the creation of the Quran. They got to Affan's house. The governor wanted to interrogate him. The interrogator told Affan, I got orders from the wali that I need to ask you these questions. Is the Quran the word of Allah or creation? We know what Ahl Sunnah position is and what they back then used to spread. Affan said, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Is that created? So he basically began to explain. He's an alim. He wants to start talking and explaining to the man. The interrogator said, look, Affan, I'm not here to debate. I got these questions to ask you. I got to write the answer. And let me advise you. When they take you to prison, then you can explain away over there. And he also said, let me advise you more. If you say it's the creation of Allah, you get higher. From my experience, he's telling them, the people who said that, they get higher rank, their salary goes up, they be at peace and ease. Those who don't say it was created, from my experience, this is the interrogator telling them, they start off by taking your salary, then your family, and you get hungry, and it only gets worse after that. Affan said, the Quran is the word of Allah. It's not created. Kalamullah. The interrogator said, you know where this statement's going to take you? He told him the verse that we mentioned, the first one I mentioned, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. Tawheed kicks in at these times. That's how you know if you have proper Tawheed. The Tawheed melted into Iman and Ihsan. The interrogator wrote the report and they cut his salary. After midnight, Affan wakes up to a knock at the door. Someone's knocking very hard at the door. He found it's an older man, a zayyat. A zayyat is an oil salesman. His clothes are dirty. You know how oil salesmen, oil, because they worked with oil all over them. It's a low, look down upon job. But this oil man took it upon himself to care for the causes of this ummah. He said, who are you? The Zayyat is asking him, who are you? He said, Affan ibn Muslim. He said, you're the man, the government cut his salary for speaking the truth earlier today? He said, yes. He possibly heard it in the community, in the market, in the masjid. He said, here's a surah, here's a money pouch with 1,000 dinar. And every month, this time, I'm going to bring you a similar bag until Allah provides you a way out. That was actually more than the government was paying Affan ibn Muslim. وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. Today the ummah may no longer have a salesman with jealousy like that man did, like that oil salesman did. But the provider who sent that salesman, that oil salesman, will send you different means. Because the provider, Ar-Razzaaq, is there. Let me conclude, because the time is running out, with this story for the sisters who follow us, especially through the internet, whose husbands are in prisons. Or single mothers as well. And actually for all of us. There's a contemporary man in Egypt, went to prison. Very poor as is. So when he went to prison, his wife has 2 kids. She had to move with her parents. It's the same thing repeated all over and over. Those whose family members went to prison, they'll tell you the same story. One day, her son got sick. Got very high fever. No transportation. She's in her parents' house now. No transportation. And even if there was transportation, there's no money to pay the doctors. So she turned to Allah all night long. 1 minute dua in salah, 2 rak'ahs, in deep agony, in pain, in sujood, in dua. Then she would tend to her baby, changing the bathing towels on his head and body. And as you know, only mothers can talk about what they feel when their children are ill. May Allah grant my mother and all your mothers Firdaus al-A'la for the suffering they suffered for us. Then she would go and soak the bathing towel in cold water and place them all over her son, his forehead and his body, and take a break in salah. 2 rak'ahs. Deep, dark, lonely, long night. Cries and shouts of desperation to Allah. And that's when the dua is most likely to get answered. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ. The one who responds to the distress when he calls on to him. late at night, the knocking comes at her door. She put on her hijab, she opened the door. It's a doctor's suit, white robe. This is a contemporary story. The doctor answered the door, but he in reality answered the order of Allah. The doctor at her door, she was astonished, has no means. She doesn't know what's going on, and limited in her communication with men. She watched as the doctor diagnosed the baby, wrote the prescription, gave her words of comfort. Then he told her the bill is so and so. He handed her the bill. Here's the bill. And you pay for house calls, you pay right on the spot. It's well known back then, and it's still known. In Arabic countries, I remember till recently, that the doctor comes, you pay him on the spot. She said, what? I have no money. He said, where's your husband who called me? She said, my husband's in prison. He didn't call you. My husband's been in prison for some time. He said, you make a late call at night and you have no husband to pay for me? He said, isn't this apartment 18? She said, no, the apartment 18 is right down the hall. That's next door. So the doctor was astonished at how he came here, and there really was someone sick. He said, subhanallah, what's your situation, lady? Tell me what it is. She told him her story. She began to cry as she was telling her story. And he began to cry. He said, wallahi, it was Allah who took me out of my bed to come to see your son. Give me that prescription back. Let me get the medicine from my car, and here's some money for you. And every week or so, I'll come and check up on you. Not only that, he continued to check up on her and give her from the charity that Allah gave him. The woman began to tease her husband who was in prison. She said, you might want to stay longer in prison because Allah, the Razzaaq, is taking care of us more than you did when you were here.